Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show. My guest today is a melodic improviser who is still finding his own voice. He is able to do this because of leaders like Chris Robinson and Justin Kreutzman. He has opportunities to play live on the bandstand and get stuff out of his system. He knows he needs to go there if the audience is going to get there. That means cutting against the grain, sneaking in the back door to smaller clubs, intimate clubs where Tony Leone can play brushes. Someday the songs write you. Neal Casal, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Nice to be here.
Neal, I wanted to ask you off the bat if you could talk to the audience about a time in your career where you faced some adversity and you were fighting it, how you overcame it, and how it made you stronger.
Well, there have been several times, many times really, in my career when I've adversity. And I mean, the best thing I can say about it, as far as making a life in music and facing adversity, the one thing that I am very fortunate to have is true passion for music, meaning the reasons that I play music and the reasons that I made a life in music were authentic ones. So I've been able to get through times of adversity because the reasons that I do it in the first place is real to me. I'm not here to. It was never to make money, or it wasn't to get anywhere. There was no agenda really other than to really be involved with the music for the sake of the music. So a lot of times when you get shaken to your core, if you're not in something for the right reasons, you'll end up getting out of it. You'll be taken out of it if your truth isn't very sound. You know what I mean?
I dig.
Yeah, I have a lot. I'm not the best musician in the world. I'm just kind of struggling for every note that I get, But the one thing I do have is that I really do love this, and I can say that with confidence because I've been through several times when I was down and out and kind of ready to be shoved out the door, But I've been allowed to stay in this because the reasons that I do it are real. So that's the one, maybe the only. It's really the chief thing that I have going for me. So could you provide a specific example of when you were shaken to your core, but you knew that this was your true nature and you stayed with it? Sure. One great example, a long time ago now, 20 years ago, but, I had a record deal when I was a solo artist in another lifetime. I had a record deal for a couple of years, and I made this record, and it was, was on kind of a major label back in the 90s, and the record came out, and I had high hopes for it, and I was trying really hard to make things happen for it. But nothing really happened, and I was only really a few months after the record was released. I was on tour with my band in Nashville, and I called my manager from the road just to check in and see how things were going, and he informed me right before I was going on stage that I had just gotten dropped from my label. So, everything went away at that point. Whatever money, whatever funds I was living on, and were gone, and everything was gone. Every bit of support that I had, was gone, and that little dream that I was having got crushed. And right there, that's a point where I've seen a lot of people kind of not make it through that, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I really had nothing going on. So that was one time of adversity that I had to struggle through, and I just hung in there and kept writing songs, and resolved to make another record quickly after that on a much smaller budget, and I did it and somehow found my way.
What were, I guess, when you got through it, I guess I'm talking to cats out there who are seeking authenticity in music, that are trying to really find themselves. Is it just based on love and love only and passion? Did you have people that were, I guess what I'm trying to say is like Steve Gadd, for instance, when I interviewed him, he lost everything, literally almost everything, because of drug addiction. And, and to the point where like he was almost out of the business, and, he had to go away for a while. But he said, when he came back, he had a lot of people, he had friends still in the business that helped support him. And I know at that time you weren't as established as you are now, but did you have some people there to help you, because it was a blow? I mean, the record companies, the business sucks. So were there people there to support you?
Oh, yeah, for sure. That story that I told, that's a very typical story, or at least it was for that time. For the 90s, that was a very, very typical story. It happened every 5 minutes, some little songwriter or band, they got a little deal, and they were all excited about it, and they were allowed to go make a record, and then, when something didn't happen for it, they got dropped. I mean, it happened all the time. I think business is a lot different now, but, that's not that special of a story, but it was a special thing for me in my head at that time, so it was hard. But I had a little bit of support. There's one guy, my friend Gary, who was, I still work with him to this day. He always stuck by me, and I had people that believed in me, for sure. But it was still up to me to figure out what I was going to do, and I had to summon up the, creativity to come up with more songs and ideas to keep myself going. But yes, I did have support, and I certainly, I was lucky in that, because I'm not a genius like Steve Gadd is. I mean, something he has going for him, it's a bummer that he got so strung out, and I'm glad that he's all right at playing, but yeah, he was also like a true genius behind the drums, and still is, so that's cool.
I dig. I know. I mean, you are too, man. I mean, listen, Gadd, it just shows. I mean, it just, the groove he worked out on Asia, which is my second daughter's name. That tune Asia. They went through about 50 drummers, and he just knocked out that groove. So he's got genius qualities. But I just, we're living through. I wanted to ask you about leadership. Your view of leadership on the bandstand. I have actually never seen you perform live, but the cats that have seen you, they talk about this egoless. You have huge ears, and you're always listening. But I just would like you to talk about your view of leadership on the bandstand. What do you think the most important things are in that respect?
Well, he already said it, his ears, like truly listening and making a decision to be a sympathetic musician and not, just to be a sympathetic musician. That's what I'm after, it's like, it depends what your agenda is in all this. I mean, really, and it becomes pretty apparent with most people, after a while, you can see exactly what they're up to, even if they're trying to hide it, in some other guise. But, you can see what people are after and what they're going for. And some musicians that are, just focused on themselves, that's great, actually. That really works in many cases, But for me, I've tried on, when I was younger, I tried on several identities, tried on a few hats and, see what felt right and what fit. And whenever it became about, when I tried to make it all about me, and here comes my solo and my thing. I've never felt quite right. I like being an ensemble player. I like to listen to others and sort of play off of them. And I also, it's really important to me when I play behind people like Chris or Todd Snyder or, Phil, Wes, whoever it is, that I'm there for them. I like being that kind of second, I don't know, we're the person right behind the main bat or something. I like that role, and I think it's one of my strengths. So it's just all about big curves, and just it's a decision. I made a decision to be like, I call it sympathetic, and it's all about, and when it comes to guitar too, I like the two guitar setup. I'm not really into, I really don't like it very much when I'm the only guitar player. I like playing off of another guitar and creating a weaving effect with guitars. I come from the Rolling Stones, Grateful Dead school of two guitar art, so that's another big thing for me. So that's probably too much answer. There you go.
No, I mean, what do you, dude, this is, the whole show is stream of consciousness. You're doing fantastic. I mean, I want to get to this idea, though. Do you believe, you came to this quote-unquote, melodic jam band scene somewhat non-traditionally.
Yeah.
Do you feel...
Sure.
Yeah, do you feel like since you've hooked up with cats like Chris and Lesh, even before, I'm leaving people out, but did they help you in terms of enjoying the role of accompanist and just sort of finding your way into the jam? Do you feel like it's been a growing point for you since you joined Chris Robinson?
Oh, no question about it. I know Chris, the playing with Chris has changed my life. And he's the catalyst for the entire thing. I'm forever in his debt when it comes to the last 5 years of my musical life. I've had a second life really since the CRB started. Before that, for many years I was just this, I don't know, I was out there in a sea of singer-songwriters doing my best. I wrote a few good songs for sure, and I made many records on my own, and I learned how to write, I learned how to sing, I learned how to make records too for a long time, and I'm glad I did that. That was my foundation, but as far as the, extensive instrumental playing and, the jam world, all of that, I was not a part of it, although I've been a Grateful Dead fan since I was a young kid, but I was not a part of that scene at all, and when Chris, asked me to start the Chris Robinson Brotherhood with him, he said, "You're the guitar player, and we are going to base this band on the Grateful Dead model of two sets, no opening bands. We play for 3 hours. We're going to really extend a lot of these songs. And you are the guitar player. You're the lead guitar player. You're gonna do all of this guitar playing. You're the guy." And I said, no, I'm not. I can't do that. I've never done that. I'm just into, that's not my role. I think you're asking the wrong guy. And he said, no, I'm asking the right guy. I know you can do it, and don't argue with me. You're gonna do it. This was all put across in a very friendly way.
Sure.
I said, well, okay, I'll try, and we'll see how this goes. And I got into it, and as a little bit of time, it took a while for me to get there, but as I got into it, I discovered how much I really liked it, and I thought, well, hey, maybe maybe I can do this after all, and I had great help from Chris and also Adam McDougall, our keyboard player, a wonderful musician who I developed a really nice rapport with, and we started working on melodies and all of this, and our arrangements, and our band just it just became something I could never foresee, you know, and there's a great investment in that band by all of us. You know, we put all of ourselves into it, and Chris, his idea for the band is a really nicely inclusive one. You know, he doesn't tell anyone what to play. You know, there's an overarching, there's a theory for the band, you know, and it's based on psychedelic music. We're all jazz heads, you know, not that we can really play that way, but we base our instrumental ideas and openness, you know, on the records that we love. And it's, you know, there's very little restriction. I have so much room to do whatever I want in this band, really. And everyone has their own, you know, polices themselves as far as what they play and their taste and, you know, what you bring to it. But, I could never have guessed this before. And then, you know, we still, you know, Chris's friendship with Phil Lesh was another thing that came along through this band. You know, Phil sat in with us several times, and then we got to play with Bob here a little bit too. And I had known Phil a little bit beforehand when I played with Ryan Adams and the Cardinals. Phil had sat in with, Phil was a big Ryan fan. Phil sat in with that band a couple times, so I knew him a little bit. Not much, but a little. And then I met him again with the CRB, and then, you know, some nice things fell together when Phil opened Terrific Crossroads, and he needed, you know, musicians to fill out his roster with the many shows that were going on there. And I was lucky enough to just kind of be standing in the right place, you know, when he needed some people, and he remembered me and started inviting me up to play with him. And believe me, that's where my education in the quote-unquote jam band world really started, because, you know, now I have the opportunity to play with one of the grandmasters, you know, and creators of this entire world, who happens to still be one of the best musicians in the world, really, you know, still possessed with a tremendous amount of energy and musical power and, you know, vitality, and is willing to play with upstarts like me and you know, and teach us and show us the ropes, you know. And I took that very, very seriously because I respect Bill so much. I love the guy. He's such a great person, an incredible musician, and you know, the opportunity to play with him was something that, you know, that woke me up. I thought, all right, you know, I can't blow this, you know. And I didn't know. I didn't know the music, you know. I didn't know Grateful Dead. I knew the songs as a listener, but I had never learned to play them thoroughly when I was younger because I was working on my own songs, you know.
Absolutely.
I was never a cover guy ever, you know. From even when I was a teenager, I was writing my own songs and trying, you know. So I had to catch up on all that music very quickly, but I worked my ass off to learn, to get at least a handle on the Grateful Dead catalog somewhat, and to be able to hang in there, you know, when I got invited by Phil, and then, you know, then people like Warren and Jimmy would show up, and Joe Russo, and, you know, everyone further. I mean, just there's, you know, this avalanche of amazingly accomplished musicians started, you know, coming my way, and I had to hang with these people, you know, and that's not what I had been working on for my, you know, my prior musical life. So I had a lot of work to do. I was in hot water many times, but I worked hard and, you know, somehow, you know, found a way to survive it all, really.
Well, I mean, you're going to be playing a gig at Interlochen, right, with Lesh. I mean, obviously, you're passing some kind of demarcation point. You're doing just fine, I think. But I want to go back. I want to go back. You talk about Chris Robinson. It changed your life, almost being a reborn in some ways. Was it just that he he instilled a confidence in you that you had capabilities that you were not even sure you had?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, what's great about Chris, it's funny. He's inspired me deeply at two different points in my life. Since in the early '90s, I was a big Black Rose fan, and I thought that they were, I don't know, just the preaching that he did back then was just as relevant as it is now. He was just telling people that, hey, wake up, man, and get yourself into some really good music and look farther, look past what you're being shown at level one. You have to go many, many levels down to really get to the substance, and then you can kind of check in with yourself and see how you're doing at that point. I mean, he was saying that stuff from day one of his career, and he still lives it now. So yeah, I don't know. I guess he saw something in me. I mean, the one thing about us too that we have in common, and the jam band world notwithstanding, I mean, and all the instrumental stuff is great, but first and foremost, we're singers, and we're song people. So that's where Chris and I actually find a lot of common ground. I mean, we're into a lot of the same music and literature and culture and all that. But when it really comes down to, and all the playing and psychedelia and all that stuff is a huge part of our world. It is our world. It makes up our world. But you got to have a song to sing at the end of the day, and you got to be able to sing that song too. So he and I are pretty. We're sticklers for that, for song quality. But anyway, back to answer your question. Yeah, I guess he saw more in me than I could, and I appreciate him for that. I really do. So I took him up on his challenge. He said, "Look, you're going to do this. I need a guitar player. I need somebody to do it. It might as well be you." So I said, "You know what? You're absolutely right. What better do I have to do than try to better myself as a musician?"
Right. I think that's the quality of a great leader, is seeing the potential and the capabilities, and then just sort of letting you go out there and
yeah, and if you look at Chris, I mean, he's a savvy guy. He's been surrounded by great musicians his entire career. He's had a lot of great guitar players. He knows a good one when he hears them, So he heard something to me that was nice. But he's also, another great thing about Chris is that he's brave,
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot from him on that. Don't get out in front of people with a song, that he just wrote, that no one's ever heard before, and that's not an easy thing to do, man. You're putting yourself out there, and he is not afraid to fail and pick himself up, and dust himself off, and then rise to great heights, the guy goes for it,
Right.
He goes for it. That's what's cool about it. He goes for it. And every time he steps up to sing, he goes for it. I have never seen him phone in a performance ever. And I've done hundreds and hundreds of gigs with him at this point. And we have been in some situations with adversity. Believe me, we played some crappy places, after several nights of little sleep. I mean, touring is hard. It can be hard, And that dude, when it comes to music and how he approaches it, is the real thing, So it's easy for me to support him because I believe in the cat when it comes to, when it comes down to opening your mouth to sing and stepping up to the plate. He's there, So what else? How else would I approach it? I got to be there too.
How did you connect originally with Justin Kreutzman?
Oh, I met him during that. There's this thing called Move Me Brightly a few years ago. It was, it would have been Garcia's 70th birthday. So there was a thing at TRI, Bob Weir's
Absolutely,
studio.
absolutely.
Yeah. where they filmed this big show for the 70th birthday party, and they invited all these people there, and different musicians. I don't know, Mike Gordon, Phil Kanes, there was so many people. Donna was even there, Joe Russo was there, and Jeff Clementi and Adam, and Harper Simon, and Cass McCombs, and all these, like, some people from different themes, you know, came into this. And I think that's where I met Justin. He and I became friends somehow. We have a sense of humor that's similar. We laugh a lot. That's good. And somehow we, you know, I like kind of hit it off. And it was like, hey, man, you know what? I can be friends with you. Let's do this, you know. And then he hired that Bob Weird documentary, the other one from a couple of years ago. He asked me to make the music for that. For all the sections of the film that weren't Bob. I actually scored the film. And
hold on. I literally watched that last week. You're telling me you did all the non-Weird music in that film?
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
That's awesome. So he hired you. I know he was the executive producer on that. How did you approach? I mean, I know Justin's. I don't know him personally, but I assume he just said, "I trust you. Go for it." How did you approach that kind of, like, what was in your head?
Well, yeah, he said, "I trust you. Go for it." But he also, there were some very specific instructions for the kind of music that was required for that film. I've done a few things like that before, so I was cool. He came up actually to the studio and we worked on it together, you know. I said, what do you need? You know, I want something like this. So I conjured it up, and we just refined it. So we get along great. That's good, and that worked out. And then he got hired. Well, whatever it was, ended up doing the visuals for the Fare Thee Well shows, and then he asked me if I would make all that music for those shows. That was mind blowing, and then we did that. And that worked out really well too. So Justin's my man. Another guy that I am indebted to for sure.
Can you talk about? I just think it's important if you could go a little bit deeper about when you say it was mind blowing. Circles Around the Sun is fascinating because, you know, for the point of reference for the audience, it was the intermission music for the Grateful Dead's 50th. 50th year tour, and I just want to know how you processed it, because it's not, at least the tunes that I've heard, they're not like burning tunes, but again, you want people to just kind of mellow out at intermission and still groove. I mean, can you talk about the process of taking on that project and how you sort of basically put it together?
Sure. Justin said, okay, there's going to be, big screens on each side of the stage at these shows, and he's putting together all these visuals of archival footage and psychedelic light show, a whole thing to keep troops entertained, not only during intermissions, but before the show. So I want you to make music for it. I said, okay, cool. Well, do you have the visuals? He said, no, I'm not done yet. I'm still working on it. Okay, well, if I can't, so I gotta work hard here. He said, yeah. All right, I'll give it a shot. How much music do you need? He said, well, there's 5 shows. I would love it if I had enough music so I didn't have to repeat anything. So I counted up the amount of hours and time that it would be, all the pre-show and the set break stuff. And I got back and I said, Justin, you realize you're asking me 5 hours of music here? This is insane. Oh, he said, I didn't realize that. Man, that is a lot. Geez. Well, just do your best. See what you can do. I was like, see what I can do. I mean, like, I don't know what success would be. Like, if, an hour wouldn't be enough, 2 hours wouldn't be enough. So I just thought, well, I'm going to see if I can do this. And even though it's completely insane with the budget that we had, I mean, making 5 hours of feasible music for anyone, like, really not an easy task, you know? This is like 5 records worth of music.
Right.
It's insane.
Right, and you want it to be something authentic. You don't want crap out there too, which makes it hard. I mean,
for sure. Yeah, you gotta try to make it good. You know. So I was in a spot really. I thought, the first order of business was getting a great band. So I got Adam from CRB, and I got this guy Dan Horn playing bass, who's great, and another guy named Mark Levy. Good musicians. Got into a studio, and we just didn't have much time really to do it. Justin wanted music that felt familiar to Grateful Dead fans, because if it was too far away from it, it would just be a disconnect, But
absolutely.
If it was mimicked music, that would be even more annoying. So we had to try to strike this middle ground where it felt dead-ish in the right way. It had to have the right essence to it, but you didn't want to sound like a cheap cover band. So to cut it off short, we went into the studio for 2 days. We had nothing prepared ahead of time, and we just went for it. I mean, I would say okay, this will be kind of like an Althea groove,
right?
An Althea-ish. So, we would get something that felt a little bit like it, where you go, ooh, it would catch your ear, but we wouldn't do the song, and we would dance around the themes and then take it from there. But because we had to make so much music, we had to play with a patience that none of us, I've certainly never even come close to. Some of these pieces of music are 25 minutes long, and it's very difficult to play that way, to make your musical events happen many minutes later than you would normally make them happen. So we had to really take a very meditative, raga-esque, take on that kind of mindset that, this piece of music is going to take a half hour. We're going to be very, very patient here. We're not trying to, change the world with this. We're not trying to really even excite anyone with this. This is just music. It's background music without being music, It can't just, fall flat on its face. It has to be interesting, but it's going to take a long time. It was it was really a mind-melting kind of thing to get into, but we had this spirit of we had to just go for it, because we only had a certain amount of time. So we were forced into all of this, and sometimes it's kind of like the beginning of the CRV for me. Chris kind of forced me into this position,
right.
Well, we have shows booked. You're going to figure this out. And it was the same. It was the same for the Fare Thee Well music. Well, you're doing this. The shows are in 3 weeks. You have to figure this out. So if we had time to think this through, it never would have came together. But because it had to happen, it happened quickly. We were forced into this magic situation, and we did it. And I was not. Adam, was right there with me on this. We were not sure what it was. We didn't know if it was any good at all. It was way too much to take in. We mixed it very quickly and turned it into Justin. We didn't see the visuals. We didn't know what anything was going to be. We didn't know if anyone would even hear it. We kind of thought it would just be like music in a restaurant that nobody pays attention to, and you barely hear it, and that's all. Well, we went to the Santa Clara show. The first gig, we showed up, and that was it. I mean, everything changed right there. I was very naive to think that nobody was going to hear this stuff, because also the music was on the internet and the streams at home, so people could hear it very clearly on their computers and TVs or whatever. And all of a sudden, by the middle of the intermission for the first show, my phone was on fire with text like, what is this music? We can hear that it's you. I mean, people are freaking out.
Oh, I love it. Wait, hold on. I wanted to just go back. So Justin Kreutzman did not even give you sent the music to him, but you never heard anything back from him?
Well, yeah, I mean, I heard that he liked it, you know. And
he liked it. Okay, so he liked it. Okay.
Yeah. No. I mean, I'm in contact with Justin a lot, you know. And we're buddies, too, so we just, like, test, you know.
No, I just, the way, but I mean, like, so you knew that at least the guy who put you on the gig was cool with it, but then...
Oh, yeah, of course. No, and he did send me, like, you know, well, he sent me ideas of what he wanted, so I tried a few ideas, loose ideas. Because when he was putting the visuals to the music, he'd send me some text. So I saw, like, little seconds of it, but there was no way to put it in context at all, you know?
Absolutely.
You can't get it in context until you're standing there. I mean, you know, it was just, you know, it was shocking. I mean, I went to Dead shows in the 80s and 90s, and, like, it was a 20-year break, and you get to the stadium, and there's 80,000 people in there for the first gig back. I mean, it was really, you know, everybody knows who was there. It was a heart-wrenching, soul-piercing experience. You know, it was very emotional for all of us fans. And then the rainbow appeared over the stage, and we were crying. You know, it was really like, it was a moment, you know. So to have, you know, and of course, I'm like, as the music that I was a part of was being played during Intermission, people were reacting so nicely to it. I'm thinking back to when I was just, you know, a kid at shows trying to scalp tickets, you know.
Yeah, no, it's so amazing to be in that situation where you were really just part of a community that you were, and then all of a sudden now you're actually collaborating to. I guess that was the thing that I want, because I think Justin, I was reading on a website where he was like, listen, you know, we want the music, you know, if there's anything about the Dead, it's about rebirth and regeneration and growing the, you know, the lineage of the music, growing it. And for you to be partly responsible, very much responsible for this sort of unique lineage, you know, just becoming part of the chain is just, I mean, you just almost don't even want to leave that yogic state. I mean, that's just a fantastic situation.
Well, no, I mean, are you kidding? It like it brings a tear to the eye. I mean, I can't even, you know, I'm just some dumb kid from New Jersey, for God's sakes. I mean, I don't like, you know, for all intents and purposes, I have no business being here, you know, but it's cool, you know, things work out in strange ways. All I can tell you is I respect the music, I respect what they did. I got a chance to step up and try to contribute to it, and, you know, we did something having no idea if anybody would like it or what it would be. And I'm just happy that people do, and that's cool. You know, we're just like, we just bow right down with everybody else, you know, to the Grateful Dead and the whole thing they started for us, you know. And because that led right up through the CRD and where I'm, you know, what I'm doing now. And I see this web, I see this network now, and I'm very lucky to be a part of it now, because, you know, I could have missed it. I mean, it didn't happen until later in my life. I mean, one term, you know, if I happened to have been busy, or if I missed Chris's call the day he called me, you know, like, none of this stuff would have happened. So I feel very fortunate. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, you're just a dude from New Jersey, man. I'm just a cat from Long Island. You know, it's like. Can you talk about your concept of love and how you not just how you bring love? We've already been talking for 50 minutes about that, but I just want you to articulate your concept of love and how you bring love to the world.
My concept of it, well, you know, my ideas about those things, you know, I'm getting a little Foster every year, you know.
I know.
Yeah, you know, that comes with time, hopefully. Hopefully you don't get harder and harsher as you get older. Hopefully you get more inclusive and easier going as time goes on. You know, I just, like everybody else, you know, I studied in my own little way, you know, history and, you know, and space and all those things. And as we find out that everything is bigger than we once thought it was, and at the same time, everything is smaller than we once thought it was, meaning that everything is more infinite than we will ever know. I mean, you know, space is like, it's bigger. The farther we can see into it, the farther away the end of it gets, you know, and on microscopic levels, the farther into things that we can see, they just keep getting smaller, and you can't find the beginning of anything. So as far as love goes, oh man, you just do your best and know that we're never going to figure all of this out. So, you know, I'm lucky to be able to play. You know, playing music is a nice way to bring love to the world without taking it too seriously or taking yourself too seriously. But, you know, the one, like, I got to do a good business here in the sense that music doesn't hurt anybody. It doesn't destroy anything. At its best, it just helps people and unites people. And, you know, for me to be a part of that network of art, that right there is love, and I'm in it for the long haul.
Well, I dig. I also wonder about if you have advice for cats that can't see the forest through the trees. You talked about the microscopic view; you can't see anything. What you know? What would be your advice for cats? Well, first of all, this is the question. Do you guys advocate for microdosing? I'm sure that you had plenty of psychedelic experiences when you were in your 20s, but I mean the dead were very much about LSD as well. So CRB band, do you guys enjoy the microdosing component of the gig?
Well, I don't really advocate anything at all.
Right.
I don't. I advocate. I don't advocate anything. I've had plenty of psychedelic experiences. I still do on occasion. You know, Chris is more experienced in that area than me, but I started taking psychedelics when I was 14 or 15, I think. So yeah, I've done it a lot. I actually, I isn't advocating anything, but I sort of, you know, like many other people, listen to a lot of Terrence McKenna, and there's something that he would say a lot that I tend to agree more with, which is actually not microdosing at all, but doing psychedelics more seldomly, but doing a larger dose, like, you know, and you know, as far as doing them socially, for me, it's difficult. I have a hard time with it, you know. But the idea that, you know, maybe you set aside a few times a year, or, you know, however many times makes sense, but definitely on the more seldom side, and do a lot. And really go for it.
I love it. I am loving that. This is so refreshing. I mean, so you're talking. Can you just talk, you know, even on a basic level about when the profound enlightenment that you get from these seldom heavy doses?
Oh, well, I mean, as far as like personal experiences, I don't know. I've you know.
You know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about just what you weaved. You were weaving magic before, talking about this idea that everything is bigger and it's more intimate, and then you talked about the microscopic point of view, and I look at a lot of listen, I'm not making it overly simplistic. I was born in 1978. I was born after the acid tests. I'm just a journalist, you know, but I look at it and I say, there were a lot of square cats that were getting dosed, you know, in the 60s and 70s because acid wasn't being cracked down upon. And I look at it now and I say there's a lot of people that they can't see the forest through the trees. And I want you to, the idea of, you can say that after these experiences, these more seldom experiences, that, you grow, your consciousness grows. And I just wanted you to talk about that.
Well, there's people that, they microdose. They call it the social sliver, and that's fantastic. I mean, it's not advocating or speaking against anything at all. Like, I have plenty of friends who do it socially, and they have the time of their lives, and they're the most open, awesome people in the world, and I admire them. It's just not me. I can't do it. So for me, it's more of a private thing where, I blast through really hard, and kind of get scared, because it's frightening when you take it to that level. I mean, not to dangerous levels, but I just mean like where you're really going to see some stuff and be shown some things and really be forced to think about them and forced to face yourself and all this stuff. But it's not a social thing. I mean, it's not about sitting around like talking to people and.
Oh, I love this approach. Can you just talk about? I mean, because you're on the edge and you're by yourself, but yet, can you talk about one profound thing that you discovered on one of these heavy trips?
No, I mean, it's not that it's that private to me. I don't know. I don't know how I recreate it. It's tough. I feel like I would be going into. This would be another hour.
Sure. No, it's this is. I'm very much into the metaphysical, and I just love talking to cats, and it's fine. I just there's a ballsiness there that I want to explore more because. I'm just tired of conformity. We don't need another Hitler. And we need to hear about cats that are willing to go to the edge and discover new things about introspection. There's no introspection anymore. That's all.
Yeah, well, and look, I'm a lightweight, in this world. I'm not any kind of psychonaut or any of that. I make no claims for any of these things. I read the same books that everyone else did, and I listen to the same music, maybe a little deeper than most people, because I get to be around people like Chris and some of our heavy music friends who will really turn you on, but as far as that goes for me, that's what I prefer. I prefer to, hit it harder, much more seldomly, in a more private way, because I'm a very introspective person, given to social anxiety and stuff. I'm just not that comfortable in my own skin to be tripping in public. It's just hard for me. So other people, that's where they find their truth and their revelation. So there's no one prescribed method for anyone at all. That's just the way I kind of think of it. But I was with Kid Candelario yesterday. If you know who he is.
Of course I do, yeah.
Yeah, sure. I figured. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No. Come on. We joust all the time on Facebook, so go ahead.
But I was with him yesterday because he's still a genius at equipment, and he's building something for me. And he was telling me, that I was telling me stories about how they built the wall of sound cabinets, all of that. I mean, he worked for that there for 29 years, and they would work on psychedelics. That's what they were. He said they were soldiers for that stuff, and they were really changing things, and they were really doing it differently. I mean, they worked groups of people on highly technical things, on psychedelics, and that's what gave them. It's part of what catalyzed the ideas for innovating PA systems, electronics, guitar gear. It was all kind of dreamed up, in concert with psychedelics, and they worked on this stuff. I could never dream of doing anything like that. So it was a much hardier generation than what I'm than what I know about. But as far as microdosing, it's probably cool on a level, on a large scale to open people up and loosen things up. That would be great. If that would work for our, for this current generation and like the milieu that we're in, I think that's great. Personally speaking, I can't do it.